Welcome, Biz Besties, to our next speaker. This is the amazing Carolyn Power. Now, I see one of Carolyn's superpowers as vulnerability in her vibrancy, because she actually has faced a lot of personal things that have made her step into her strength. And as we know, vulnerability is often really hard to step into. So that's not the superpower she's going to speak about today, but it is the superpower that I see in Carolyn, that she shows up being vulnerable in her vibrancy, because we all love to hear Caroline speak and hear what she's got to say. Welcome, Caroline. Thank you for being one of our businesswomen and sharing your superpower with us. I'd love you to introduce to our viewers what your superpower is and a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Nicole, and thank you for having me. Thank you for watching. Beautiful human, whoever you are that you're watching this, I hope that you've stumbled through my this presentation for a reason. So thank you for being here. So as Nicole was saying, I'm Caroline Power, and I'm actually a nutritional hypnotherapist. What the heck does that mean, right? So I've been a dietitian for 15 years, actually coming on to 16 now, 2004. Oh my gosh. Anyway, and I'm a hypnotherapist as well, because it's my three pillars of health. So one is nutrition, because you have got to know what you're putting into your body, and cars don't run without fuel. Number two is mindset, because it is what you're thinking about that is actually bring about whatever your reality is, and we can talk about more about that later. And number three is support. So it's good to have, for instance, right now we're all together, we're all here with the Biz Besties, we're all Biz Besties, and we're here supporting each other through this. So I do believe that these are the three pillars for health. My superpower and what I help women with is actually taking back that power from food, that power back from food, because often we give our powers away to the food, whether we're sad, we are depressed, or we're bored, or we're tired. So any sort of emotion, right, ends up, giving us the food. Oh, we'll deal with that later. So you end up stuffing things down. So as I always say, you face your stuff so you stop stuffing your face. So with that, we take your power back, and I will help you do just that today.
Before we got on, we were also talking about taking your power back from how we may have been body shamed as children, or we still might have a shame about our body. How does that show up in our lives, and what can we do about that?
So we are constantly being bombarded with information, right? And people sometimes, they don't really realize what they're saying. When I was growing up, and I think that you alluded to that a little bit in the beginning, I did have an eating disorder. I had a father who used to, he didn't specifically call me fat, but there was a character in a French comic called Obelix, sorry. And he was overweight and red-haired, right? So that's why I was Obelix, but he was a fat character, right? So I remember all of that going on. And when my dad used to say, oh, when I was much older and I actually came forth with my eating disorders, and my dad said, oh, but why did this happen? My daughter, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, do you think it's great growing up being called Obelix? And then he was just like, oh, he didn't realize he was doing it, right? So I think for us as women, it's very important how we view each other. And how many times have you been at the gym? And I mean, I'm guilty, right? Mm-hmm. You've been at the gym and you see those women, and that happened this morning. So you see those women, they have like the fake boobs, the big lips and things like that. And I bet you that you would have thought to yourself, just like me, oh my gosh, why do you have to do that? Because I actually have to say, and I'm being very vulnerable and telling you that I did think that, and I was like, Caroline, where did that come from? Right? So, but of course that then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, it's more of a concern, because I actually thought the lady was beautiful without it. right? So,
Yeah.
but that was something that came up for me. So what are we telling, what are we telling ourselves about other people? Because the quality of our life is the quality of our communication with others, yes, but ourselves mostly. And a lot of the times when you point something out in others is because you're either not happy about it in yourself, or you're trying to make yourself feel better, which means you're not confident in yourself with whatever's going on.
Oh, sorry. What you've
So
just mentioned is one of the reasons that I love International Women's Day so much, because it is women supporting each other and building each other up. And as women, we've been conditioned to judge each other, and often, whether on purpose, unconsciously or consciously, we tear each other down.
exactly.
And especially in the body shaming area, how do we check ourselves like you did today? How important is it to generationally change how we are judging each other and supporting each other, especially with our appearances and body?
It starts with us. And as soon as you notice your thoughts, and you would know, and the viewers would actually see as well, that one thing I say to you is, do not judge your thoughts. Just pick them up and kind of go get curious. The word here is curiosity. Kind of go, where did that come from? Can I please send it back to where it came? Right? Because sometimes it's not your thoughts. And I do, I'm a bit woo, right? So sometimes it's not our thoughts. Sometimes we just kind of go, ooh, that was there somewhere. Where did that come from? So you can think to yourself, do I really think that? No, it was just, somewhat, whatever that came through. But it could be something like, oh, I wish I had those lips. Right, I don't. But like these things could be going on. It could be something internal, right? I usually say, when you fix your mind, you fix your body. That these are things that I would also say. So the first thing that I would say is just catch them. Catch the thoughts, and catch, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. I love people who are opinionated. Hey, I'm one of them, right? And yes, you can be opinionated, without mentioning names and without actually being a judgy McJudgerson, right? Because I am one. I am very, very opinionated, but you will never, ever, ever see me tearing a woman down. Why? Because I catch my thought before I say it, and I go, how can I make this an empowering thought as opposed to a limiting thought? And I mean, that I usually talk with kids, and I have a daughter myself, so I am very aware that I don't want her growing up with that bad relationship with food that I did, right? So I work with mothers a lot to make sure that they know how to speak to their daughters when their daughters come home from seeing their friends that just started getting boobs, right? And then go, oh my gosh, but I don't have any, because my daughter is right now, she's 4.5 at the moment of this video, but there will come a time where the kids in her class who are about half a year or a year older than her, because she's in kindergarten, they will get boobs and she won't. So I actually, even this morning we did that. We just went in front of the mirror. I always give her a mirror, and then I say, Penelope, don't you think you're beautiful? She's like, yes, I'm beautiful, So I'm making her see herself in the mirror and tell me what are 3 things she loves about herself every day.
So that's a great tip to do with your daughters, and it would be a great start, I guess, for everybody to bring that habit into their own life, to look in the mirror. So, and you were saying that it's about what Penelope may perceive as she doesn't have. And for me, I've always had larger breasts, so it was always, I had larger breasts than the person. Why do I have them, and why don't they do them? And it's when you go to school with what bra size are you don't want to wear a bra, then all of a sudden you do want to wear, everybody else is wearing a bra and you want to wear that pretty. It's so
hey, I didn't have boobs.
There's so much involved.
She's not going to have that problem, because Daniel's family all have boobs, so she's not going to have that problem.
But how do we, like, it's such a thing that you were saying your father called you obliques, and I guess for the rest of us it's a little bit like Garfield, the ginger cat.
True. Yes, yes.
How, when that becomes overwhelming and we choose to listen, how do we stop listening? You've talked about how we stop our thoughts, but what do we do when we're hearing it? When we're hearing it on TV, we're constantly bombarded on the media that we should be something else, whether it's our hair, we should be dyeing our hair, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And of course, it's really lovely we all like to get our hair done and all of that for ourselves. But how do we actually hold all of that in check to say, okay, I'm not, it just goes through?
Like, one thing that I say is, how does it make you feel? Right? So if people are constantly bombarding you, this is the power of the media, whether it's social media, whether it's commercials, whether our friends, right? So the power of suggestion. There are three, like it's as well with hypnosis, right? Because I'm a hypnotherapist. So with hypnosis and with suggestion, there are three ways that suggestion or hypnosis is not going to work. One of them is whether you don't have rapport with the person, or you're not in the quite right frame of mind to accept that suggestion. Number two is whether you're not ready to let go of whatever it is that's going on, or you're not ready to actually move forward. And number three is if you're not following instructions, right? So this was with hypnosis. So if you think about it the other way, whatever someone is hypnotizing you or telling you something, if there is an inkling of you that believes it, you are going to take it as gospel, because a belief is always true to the one that holds it. Always, right? So the one thing I can say is, if you hear something that you don't like and you don't want it, and you think there's an inkling there, I would say get close to your ear with your fingers and go delete, delete, delete suggestion, delete suggestion, delete suggestion, right? I was mentioning to Nicole before we started recording this that I took my daughter for her 4-year-old checkup, and the doctor actually turned around to me and said, "Oh, she's a little bit over." And I went, delete, 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 delete in my daughter's ear, right? Delete, 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 and please do not talk anything anymore, right? So I went in my daughter's ear. So you can actually do that with your children, boys, girls, yourself, but always close your eyes and go delete suggestion, delete, 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 and come back with what you actually want to believe in. Because if you remove something, you need something in its place, right? So if it is something like, oh my gosh, like your hair is just so yuck, then I go delete, delete, delete. My hair is beautiful, right? That's just an example. I mean, this is just very out of place example, but it is. If someone turns around to me, oh my gosh, I think you've put on a few kilos, I delete suggestion, delete, 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 delete. Oh, I'm actually just the right size. I'm actually just the way I love it, just the way I am. And it doesn't matter. Like, health is not a size, people. Health is a feeling. So it doesn't matter what size you are. If you have the health, right? The beauty, the health is on the inside. If your bloods are going fine, I'm a dietitian. I'm always going to talk about scientific stuff. If your bloods are fine, if you're feeling great, if you're eating that cake and you feel amazing because of it, because you're rewarding yourself for a beautiful day, right? And you have no issues afterwards. You're not beating yourself up about it. You're not judging yourself. You're not getting all guilty about it. You are human. You are right, and you are healthy, right? The only time we have to do something about it is when you actually start going in that mind, the monkey mind, right? That we were talking about, Nicole, about the monkey mind. And then you pick up your thoughts, you delete them, and then you give yourself an empowering thought. That's what I always tell my clients to do.
So you mentioned the doctor with Penelope, and you also were talking about that you come from a scientific background as well. And my question is, how do we change the medical perception, and how do we actually go, okay, that's not okay? You know, when you go into a doctor and he says you're overweight, but he checks your blood pressure and you can go through all of this a little bit more and you're okay.
Yeah.
How do we change that mindset when somebody who is an authority in our health goes, mm-mm. What do we check to make sure we're not overreacting, that maybe we should do something?
Yeah.
And when we don't need to do something, how do we balance that out?
I think, look, always consult your doctor when in doubt. These advices are just general right now, and this is just based on my experience as a dietitian, as a hypnotherapist. I have been in the industry for almost 16 years, and I'm also a food technologist. That's why I say I'm scientific, right? But you just have to see, for instance, I'll give you a complete other example, right? My daughter had everything was fine for her, but her weight was a little bit over. So what was the issue there? Nothing, right? First, there's no issue. She's 4 years old. Secondly, she still, like, she looks fine. If you look at yourself and you look fine, but some people, they have a little bit of what I call what is called body dysmorphia. You look at yourself in the mirror and you always see yourself as a little bit overweight, or you always see yourself a little bit heavier than you're meant to be, or whatever, than you actually are in reality. Another way to do it is get someone to take a photo of you so that you can see, right, the sizes, like, because sometimes people can just see themselves in the picture and go, oh no, I'm fine, but they look at themselves in the mirror and they go, oh, this is weird, like, I think I have this and that, so this is another way to do that. Sorry.
It's okay.
I just got the hiccups now. Of course that's what had to happen. So yeah, so that's what I would say in that sense, right? I think with doctors, old school doctors, they are very, very into the BMI and the scientific stuff. I think the more alternative medicine, such as Chinese medicine practitioners, naturopaths, kinesiologists, they are a little bit more on the, oh, you're looking fine. Just, let's look after your gut health and let's keep going. Because I do look after my gut health as well. I'm not a naturopath, so I don't claim to be an expert on everything, and I believe coaches need coaches. But what I would say is always have a critical mind when you go to these doctors, right? Or what they're telling you, does it ring true to you? Do you feel like you need to investigate? Right? If it is fully out of it, if your blood pressure is 140/90, of course that you have a high blood pressure, and there's no way to refute that. But if the doctor turns around to you and says, oh, jump on the scales, and then you are, tall, and your weight is this, and your BMI is 30. And you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, okay, what does that mean? And you have done, say, for instance, my husband, he's done a DEXA scan and his body fat is 26% or whatever, which means that he just has heavy bones, right? Such as my daughter, such as my son, my whole family has, heavy bones apart from myself, eating disorder, right? Because that's why I don't, I have really frail bones because I didn't feed myself. So yeah, so that's what I would say. Have a critical mind when you go to the doctor. What they're telling you, does that ring true? Of course, if you have like a hip stomach ratio, that's another good one to look at. That's also something that I would recommend doing, right? So blood pressure, it's irrefutable. The hip belly ratio is another one that's irrefutable for you to see if something is going on.
So I know that. So I work with you, Caroline, because I had tried to lose weight and all of that sort of stuff. And after working with you, I actually, because of the grief and the stress I'd actually gone through in the last few years, it was actually something that I believe was actually stopping me from losing weight. My body was in full fright and flight mode. So not everything, so I needed to heal that, and I'm healing that with you before I actually could step into weight loss or,
Yeah.
making myself better. What we're talking about emotions and things like that, but it is also our lifestyle and what we live and not live that create who we are. How can you help women understand that a little bit better? Because it was really like, the aha moment for me when I was listening to you one day, and I'm like, okay, people need to hear this, that it's not just about what we eat or don't eat, or
Definitely
it's
not.
what happens to us.
Definitely not. It's not about what we eat at all, right? Because and if it was about knowledge, we'd all be rich and skinny, right? Like, if it was about, because if knowledge was power, if everybody knew what if just knowing was good enough, right? So we have two minds, right? A conscious mind and an unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is that mind in the background. So the conscious is your talking mind, is like, it's pretty self-explanatory. And the unconscious is actually responsible for 95 to 98% of what we do. And it's the keeper of all memories, and its prime directive, its prime function is to protect us, to keep us safe. And sometimes when we get any trauma or any fight or flight, and we're currently living in fight or flight all the time, right? Scientifically speaking, your body goes into a survival mode where you are pumping out cortisol, right, in your body as a stress response, as also an immune, response to protect you, right? This is scientifically speaking. And the cortisol specifically hinders weight loss. It actually makes you keep the weight on. So it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you eat, that cortisol is always going to be pumping, and you're always going to be keeping that there, because you don't know when you're going to get it anymore, or you don't know when you're going to have to protect yourself from the T-Rex. And when old cavemen and cave women, they would be like, oh my gosh, the T-Rex, oh my God, cortisol would be amazing, adrenaline, yay, let's go. But right now we don't, right? The stress is actually our new age T-Rex, right? So like whatever anxiety that we have towards the future, because you never have anxiety towards the past, right? So it's like worrying. It's worrying for something in the future is almost like praying for the bad thing to happen, right? If you think about it that way as well. So I would say scientifically, that's obviously what's going on there. You have the cortisol pumping and you're protecting yourself and all of that. So the good question to have here is, what was that first event, right? So let's just unpack it. If we're talking weight loss, if we're talking weight specifically, when did you start putting on weight? Or when did that start happening? You were going to notice that there was possibly one trigger event and then lots of little other trigger events, right? But once you remove that one, remember, you face your stuff, then you stop stuffing your face. And when you release that one, you're going to realize, even noticing what it is, right? So you don't need to be a hypnotherapist. You don't need to be like an EFT practitioner. You just notice what it was. Because I remember talking to you, and as soon as I said to you, so you were pretty vulnerable at that point and your body wanted to protect you, guess what it decided to do? And then I remember looking at you and a light bulb went off. And even before we did any work, you were just like, yep, I'm ready to let this stuff go. Okay.
we can say shit. If anyone's offended, I do apologize, but we are being our authentic selves here. I would say shit.
That's true. I can get very ranty and then I can swear. So sorry.
That's okay.
My kids know if you're old enough to drive, you're old enough to swear. So I can swear in front of them because they know they're not allowed to. So, but yeah, so it's like, you can let all of that stuff go. So if you like journaling, you can start journaling about it, but really stop and think, when was that? What was that one time that after that, right? So for some women is, oh, I decided to quit corporate and open my own business. And I go, okay, so you're going to be more visible, right? And the person goes, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So are you worried about what people think? Oh my gosh, I'm terrified. I was like, Right. So are you protecting yourself from the T-Rex of stress? And then they go, oh,
I was
so
going to say to you, trauma and stress is also your reality and your truth. It doesn't have to be equal, like ours doesn't have to be equal to have the same effect. And I think that's really important for people to know. What my trauma was mine and my truth. It doesn't have to be one of the viewers watching to equal it. It can be that you don't want to appear on camera, or you would see lots of varied stress, and none of them actually have more weight than the other.
And you know what other thing as well is, some people use it, even though the unconscious mind keeps that weight there, right? Keeps that situation going to keep you protected. Some people start hiding behind it as an excuse, right? So say for instance that, and this is another really key thing that I would love you guys to get. If it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not important to you, you'll find an excuse. And a lot of the times there is a perceived benefit of the weight, for instance. This is just an example. We're giving the example of the weight, right? Funny that I talk about body shaming and all I'm doing is talk about weight. But what's the perceived benefit of the weight? Oh, I don't have to go on Facebook Live because I'm terrified of public speaking. And if I just tell people I don't want to go because I'm a little bit overweight, I'm not happy with my looks, then it's acceptable. Because have you realized how acceptable it is to always be on a diet? If you actually turn around to someone and say, oh, I'm actually eating healthy, I'm exercising, what the heck's going on with you? Or if you say, wow, I'm on a diet again, I'm trying this one this time. Oh, really? Which one? Tell me. Oh, how good. Da, da, da. Like it's so socially acceptable for people to be on a diet. But, being healthy, God forbid. Right? So it's like, is that an excuse for you? Like, is it coming up as an excuse? And and I'm saying this with all the love in the world. I say this, look, I'm saying this with love. I say that health is not a size, it's a feeling. The weight only matters if it bothers you. It doesn't bother me. It shouldn't bother anybody else. If you're happy within your weight, then amazing. Right? But I can tell you from a person that has been a size Australian 16 to 18, me, and I've also been a size 4 Australian, right? That I wasn't healthy in either way. And I'm now a comfortable size 8 and I feel healthy, right? I was the extreme of size 4 and I was not good. I was not healthy at all. So just see what rings true for you. What is it that you actually want? Remember as well that the unconscious mind doesn't process negatives. If I tell you right now, whatever you do, don't think of a blue tree, you're thinking of a freaking blue tree, right? So if you tell yourself, don't want chocolate, don't want chocolate, don't want chocolate, don't want chocolate, all you're thinking about is a freaking chocolate. So eat the freaking chocolate.
So the other thing that I do want to bring up that you do actually say is we're actually not losing weight. We're not losing anything. We're releasing it. We're letting it go. Like it's talking about what we're, positive or whatever. The best thing to start and even saying to yourself is that we're releasing it. We're not losing it. We're not going to go find it again. We are actually releasing it.
Yeah.
The other thing about trauma and releasing weight or whatever, or dealing with traumas or body shaming, because body shaming can be trauma in itself. Exactly. We may have done the work, like, with my trauma, I had done the work psychologically and had a psychologist and all of that and felt quite good in my mindset. But obviously, when we spoke, it was like, hang on, unconsciously have I let this go? And it was still serving me that I was keeping myself safe, I was keeping my children safe, I was keeping my husband safe, but it wasn't a conscious thing I was doing. Yeah. So when we're talking about trauma, we may have dealt with it and we may have an awesome mindset, but there's also the unconsciousness of not dealing with body shaming or emotional eating, or that our power has been taken away from us.
That's true. And one of the things that you can actually start looking at, and how's your relationship with food, right, in general as well? Because yes, there is a relationship between you and your body, because that's probably the most important one. If you can just sit there in silence and be grateful for your body, be grateful for your unconscious mind, because you are actually speaking. You are actually, your heart's beating. You are healthy, right? Because some people have, diseases going on. There's a pandemic going on right now. So you're healthy. You have, your body is looking after you. Your unconscious mind is looking after you, right? And then you can go into your relationship with food. You have your relationship with yourself and the relationship with food that you have with food. If you are having any sort of stressors, right, and you have that trauma there, that you know what it is, I always say, go back there, right? If you close your eyes, you go back there. If there's any negative charge on it, you haven't fully dealt with it. And it's still affecting the relationship that you have with yourself right now, right? So there are a few ways that you can deal with that. The number one is journaling. You can actually journal it out on paper, but I would say you have to do some sort of energetic thing to let it go, whether it is taking a shower and imagining that all of that you've written on paper is going down the drain as it goes down the shower, right? So this is a type of self-hypnosis. Just get yourself into a very relaxed state, and then just see the shower as like the white light going through you, and all of that you have written on paper going down the drain. And remember, it will work if you want it to, right? And the second thing, so that's a relationship with yourself and the relationship with food. So what do you think about food? Is food just something that is going to make you feel good? Or is food something that's going to comfort you? Or is food something that you love to eat because you love to try new things? So think about how that's like, because it could be that you're getting it twisted as well. And if you have a partner and you start abusing the partner will freaking leave, and it's not going to give you what you want. It's the same with the food. If you are eating while you're stressed, the cortisol is going to make that food not act properly in your body, and it'll either go straight through you and store the little fat deposits over there wherever, right? That's why there's a big push for mindful eating and intuitive eating, right? Because that stress response that we have when we're stressed eating, or we're tired and we're eat, and all of that, all of those hormones are going to affect how that food is absorbed. So think about that, an abusive relationship that you might have with someone, and think about that being the food, right? Look at a chocolate cake and kind of go, oh my gosh, even before I'm eating you, I'm just rebelling against myself because I don't want to eat you. I know you're bad for me, so I'm going to eat it anyway because I'm a rebel. No, just start going, hey, I want this chocolate cake. It looks good. I'm going to enjoy it. And I love the cake. And it's good because I eat 80% healthy, 20% not so healthy. And it's good for me. And it is good for you, right? So these two relationships is what we have to think about. This, with the trauma that you were talking about, does it still have a place in your life right now? Go back there. Imagine that going through. And of course, if you want to do some mindset work and things like that, there are different modalities and practitioners that can help you with that.
So we're going to wrap up now because we've had such an awesome conversation. What do you say to every woman, daughter, child, aunt, anybody who is out there? What is the one thing that you want them to take forward right now?
What I want them to take forward right now is just notice your thoughts. What are you telling yourself? What are you telling others? Right? How can you take that power back? Because I want you to realize as well that the only thing that you can control is your mental attitude. That's it. Nothing external. We cannot control our externals. We cannot control that our husband is going to go past McDonald's and buy food for the kids, right? For instance. You can control how you react to it, right? You can control the fact that you go, oh my God, why did you do that? Or you can go, oh, you know what? That doesn't bother me, whatever, right? So that response that you get is going to affect your state, right? And the fastest way to change your state is to change your focus and to change your physiology. And physiology is just how we move, how we do, right? So at times, what I would say to you is notice your thoughts. If you see a thought that is not very nice, what is a nice song, for instance, that you love to listen to that empowers you? So just go put that in like maximum volume. I do that in the car. If I have any ill thoughts or things like that, I actually just say delete, delete, delete. I'll send it back to where it came from, because I'm also an energy practitioner. I send it back where it came from because it does not belong to me. In fact, I am this, this, and this. I say the nice thing. And then I put a nice song. So I change my focus, right? Because I don't want to focus on the worry, which is praying for the bad thing to happen. I want to focus on the good stuff. At least I am, right? Pollyanna, whatever. But I know.
I love the glad game.
Yeah. So you focus on what you actually want, not what you don't want, and then you change your physiology. And this is going to change your state in a second. Right? So this is what I want everybody to take from this today. If you don't take anything from this, is notice what you're thinking. How can you empower yourself? How can you empower your children with their relationship with food, where their relationship with their bodies? Because there are two, like I said, with yourself and with others, and with food, sorry, with yourself and with food, that I want you to perceive, right? So notice your thoughts, switch them, change your state, and let me know how you go.
And I guess what I'm taking from it, if I wouldn't let anyone say it to my daughter, why am I letting myself say it to my, why am I saying it to myself? Caroline, if people want to get in contact with you or your superpowers, where can they follow you?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. So you can follow me on at the Health Strategist. So the name of my business is the Health Strategist. I'm both on Instagram, on Facebook as well, and my mobile.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, my website is thehealthstrategist.com.au/blog, because it is under construction. And, I have my mobile number on the website as well, and you can always give me a ring. And
awesome. And if you've got any questions, please pop it in on this post and put your questions in there, and I'm sure Caroline will be only too pleased to answer them. So I am so excited to have you here, because I really do love your vulnerability and vibrancy, because you're not just coming from a place of do, but you have actually lived the life that most women have, and are still living the life that, we face every day. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very happy that you asked me. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
Okay, so we will see you next with our next speaker. Thanks for joining us.